So hello everyone and welcome to the regular council meeting of the Village of Lytton for April 7th, 2026. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off your microphones and your videos to allow council to begin the proceedings. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted on the Village of Lytton YouTube channel. If you wish to view the meeting or access a video recording of a past meeting, you can visit the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you, Your Worship. We may call the meeting to order. You'll have to unmute yourselves, just so you know.
How's that? Okay. There we go. Thank you, CEO Storoshenko. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7:01 on April 7th, 2026. This is our regular council meeting. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're on the traditional and unceded territory of the Uncleplumuk people, and specifically the ancient village of Quickempchin, the Village of Lytton is situated on, and we're grateful for that. Now we will move on to adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Lightfoot.
Thank you.
A second.
Seconded McCann. Any changes to the agenda? All right, all those in favor? And carried. Now we will move on to the adoption of the minutes as amended. And the motion is that the minutes of the March 24th council meeting be amended to clarify Councillor Toss's comments regarding the Auditor General's report, and that the minutes be adopted as amended. And those have been circulated and they're consistent with the last meeting. Are there any other errors or omissions? Do I have a mover on that?
Sorry, Denise.
Denise has got it.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I better pay attention there to the stream. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor.
Okay, so I'll move.
Mover and a seconder.
I'll second.
Great.
Now I'd like to speak.
Okay, are there any comments on that?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. I don't support the amendment. Verbal reports are really for reporting the business of council and bringing pertinent information from committees, or reporting on how we represent the village at events, that sort of thing. And to provide this much detail into the minutes when we don't typically do that. So I'm not supporting the adoption of the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Are there any other comments? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor of the amended agenda?
Minutes?
Sorry.
The amended minutes.
The amended minutes. All those in, thank you. All those in favor of the amended minutes? I will vote in favor, and those against. And that has not been carried. All right.
Minutes. Then what happens to the minutes?
So we will then, I guess, put the question forward for the regular, the minutes as presented without the amendment. Can I have a mover for that?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor McCann, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Michelle. I will call the vote then. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Thank you. We will move on to section 5, business arising from minutes, unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business or business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment on matters related to the agenda, and I'll turn it over to CEO Storoshenko.
Thank you very much. So we now invite members of the public to provide comments on items related to tonight's agenda. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function featured on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on React at the bottom of your screen and then select raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and ask you to unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state and spell your name, provide your address, and indicate the item you're speaking to. If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. I'm not seeing anyone, but I'll call for a second time. If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. And is there anyone there at Parish Hall that wishes to speak?
There is not, CEO Staroshenko. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. Back to you.
Thank you, CEO Staroshenko. So we will now move on to 7.11, a report from our Chief Administrative Officer regarding the 2026 annual plan. And before CAO Momberket speaks to that, may I put the motion on the table that Council approve the 2026 annual plan, including key performance indicators. Moved by Councillor Michelle and seconded by?
I'll second.
Councillor Lightfoot. Thank you. Over to you, CAO. Oh, sorry. Oh, dear. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Thank
over
you.
to you, CEO Momberket. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toss, and good evening, everyone. Nice to see everybody this evening. This first item is our 2026 annual plan. So this process started back in, I believe it was November, Committee of the Whole meeting. Council took a look at their strategic priorities that they had developed in previous years and had a look at the 2025 annual plan and gave staff any feedback on any changes that they wanted to see. The first slide is the key priorities that are in the plan. Lisa, could you go? Yeah. So when just after this council was elected early in 2023, they had a strategic planning session where they done some work with a facilitator to come up with sort of some strategic priorities, and then took a look at them again in October of 2024. And these are the 6 priorities that came out of the 2024 work that was done. And at that time, it was thought that those priorities would carry through to sort of the end of the term for this group. So the 6 priorities being the rebuilding. So of course, still focusing very much on that. Organizational excellence, again, another kind of key item where we were working on just improving the overall efficiency and running of the village organization. Relationships, so working both with people in our local community, but also some of our other government partners. Economic growth, always a focus and continues to be. Safety and sustainability, this wraps into it things like emergency management and climate adaptation and things like that. And then advocacy, which is a role that Mayor and Council continue to have, and you know, any opportunity to advocate for Lytton, for the village, for the residents, with other levels of government, and try to get the focus on things like the healthcare center, those types of initiatives. So these 6 key priorities are kind of the very top level of the plan. It all kind of starts from here. Then the next slide is, and this is just a reminder for everybody, these are the values that the village has. That this was kind of determined through the code of conduct process that council went through. Again, working with a facilitator to help kind of bring some of these things out. So these 6 values basically reflect how we work together every day. So, you know, with a focus on the community, having courage to, you know, make the decisions that we need to make and do the work we need to do, ensuring that we have good communication and teamwork always, making sure we're in an environment of respect and belonging. We make sure we take ownership and accountability for our decisions and for the work that we've done. And then as much as possible, use innovation and be adaptable wherever possible. So these 6 values don't necessarily result in work that we do, but it is sort of in the background of all the work that we do. It's kind of a little bit of a, what's those kind of concepts that are kind of out there, you know, but we have to kind of keep those in mind all the time. So then from the strategic priorities, we then kind of look at what kinds of things do we need to focus on in 2026 that will help move us towards achieving those strategic priorities, whether it's the rebuilding or the economic growth or or any of the others. And so these are the key performance indicators that are included in the 2026 plan with a target timeline date for them. So many of them go to December 31st, 2026, because they're activities that continue throughout the whole year. So, under the rebuilding strategic priority, we have a number of targets. Homes occupied in the village, hoping to have 25 by the end of 2026, hoping to have 5 commercial buildings under construction, 30 residential permits issued. Our investment in our water system, based on the grant funding that we've received of $3 million, and $5 million investment in the sewer system. And you may be, those look like large numbers, but as you know, we've been talking recently about some very big projects. And I think one of them, the crew was there today mobilizing to get started on. So we are going to be working hard on that stuff. On the community hub side of things, hoping to have the pool under construction and looking at tendering the construction for the hub itself. The village office will begin the construction in the spring of 26. The fire hall, hoping to have a completed design by the end of the year. And then under organizational excellence, looking at kind of looking at our property tax, utility charges, just like kind of the policy, the ratio of one versus the other. You may remember we started these conversations in our committee of the whole meetings in January. And I think we had 2 meetings in January that covered this stuff off. And we need to look at our water and sewer fees and how they relate to the costs of running those services. So that we've been working on that and hope to have that completed by the end of July or the end of June, sorry. And then looking at relationships, again, like with all of our, with all of the bands in the area, we have had some discussions with chief and council, but looking to have more or have some discussions in some cases where we haven't been able to make contact. So whether that's with Lytton First Nation or Scuppa or Siska, Nikamin and Kanaka Bar. So all of them trying to get some of those discussions happening by the end of the year. Continuing to work with the Chamber of Commerce on a number of things, but one specific initiative was to develop some materials that can be used to help attract new businesses to Lytton, whether it's by us or by other agencies that do that type of work, like other government agencies that are in market looking to bring business to British Columbia, and we want them to bring it to Lytton. The project advisory committee continues to have a role in the hub and continuing to work with us on the business model and the operations plan for that facility. And then, of course, the official community plan is really the whole thing is based on relationships, right? And all of the different people that have participated. So that's going to continue through 26 and be wrapped up by the end of the year. Under the economic growth, looking at a couple of different things, the destination development plan that we adopted back just over probably about a year and a half ago, we implemented year 1 in 2025, looking to move forward on year 2 in 2026 and implement those recommendations that were included in that plan. On the housing side, looking at the construction of the 2 homes for essential services. So we had some initial conversation with council about that, and we're now working on some more things that will be coming back for approval at some point. And coming out of the OCP process is to look at doing an economic development plan. So really a comprehensive plan that includes not just tourism, but other long-term opportunities as well, and building on some of the work that was done, particularly right after the fire with the recovery economic plan that was done, but even some of the other economic development plans that have been done in the past, building on those. Under safety and sustainability, hoping to work with all the regional partners to establish an emergency management organization. If we don't get that formalized, even just to kind of move in the direction of having a more kind of formalized committee, the group that works more together on emergency management planning. And that happens right now, but it's not as formalized as maybe it could be. And then looking at having the participation of everybody involved in that emergency management function give input into the design of the Fire and Emergency Services Center that is going to be planned for up on Highway 1. And then the final thing under advocacy is just on the health services side. This is we have this in the plan every year to continue to try to influence the health center and getting it back to Lytton as quickly as possible. So those are the key performance indicators are also what we will use to report in our annual plan. That's required, the required reporting that happens in June of each year. We will report on these indicators in that annual report. And then in addition to what we see in the plan itself, staff then have a whole list of initiatives that they have, on their radar that help help them contribute to these larger initiatives that all roll up to the strategic priorities. So it all kind of hangs together. And then the 2026 budget comes out of this. This is the plan. The budget is really the financial expression of the plan. So that's all the comments I was planning to make, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, CAO Momberket. Is there any comments or questions from the floor? Councillor McCann.
CAO Momberket, as I read through, I look at the immensity of the task you have staff. And the first question that pops into my mind is, how on earth do you prioritize when you see all of these are all priorities. So then you have to figure out, well, and then something else comes up, and then something else comes up, and then you're asked about this, or maybe you want to research about that, or maybe there's something else that council has decided they want to investigate more. How does that process work? Like keeping things on track so nothing gets lost. It'd be really easy to lose stuff and all that.
Yeah, and it is interesting because, as you know, we report to council every quarter on those key performance indicators. So that's our chance as staff to kind of get together and, look at where we're at compared to what was in the plan. So, and I think, some staff check in with the plan more often than others. It's just the way that they work. And some roles have a lot more day-to-day disruption than others. So, it is different for everybody for sure. And it is a challenge. And you've heard me lots of times say, well, we're working on this because it's in the plan, or we're not working on that because it's not in the plan, right? So, we do have to do that sometimes because it's not possible to just keep adding when there's already a pretty full plate of work in there, right? I mean, and things like, to your point, like all the day-to-day work that a department like Public Works does isn't reflected in there, or finance. I mean, finance's job is day-to-day, and so there's nothing in the annual plan about processing invoices and cutting checks, right? But that takes up a lot of the time of the folks that work in those areas. And I appreciate you understanding that and reflecting that.
Thank you. Good answer. Thanks.
And Councillor Lightfoot.
I just want to say I found this report really informative. I mean, we're into the details, at least twice a month, maybe more. But to have it all concise and in a report is really handy to see, what our tasks are. So it's a great overview. I think the goals, objectives, and timelines give us really firm footing on how we want to move things ahead. And, it seems pretty ambitious, but I guess it's the time to be ambitious right now while we're rebuilding. We don't want to lay back. And so, no, I think it's a great report. And I think if anyone wants to know what we've been doing and what we hope to do, that this is a good document for them to get some insight onto some of the work that's being done.
Yeah.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot. I have one comment before we call the question, and that's just, I was actually quite happy to hear or to see in the report, and I don't know exactly where I read it, but that their project manager will be boots on the ground. So that's good news, because I think that's really important as we go through the rebuild. And yeah, I agree with Councillor Lightfoot. It was a good report. Thank you. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Carried. Okay, that's me again. Next. Thank you. So we'll now move on to 7.1.2, and that's the archaeology permit applications. I see we have archaeologist Joanne Hammond in the room as well. So I think she's here to answer questions. Should we have any of her that our staff can't answer? So I will start by putting the motion on the table. Can I have a motion?
So move Lightfoot.
And seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Melissa Michelle, and over to you, CAO Member Cat.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toss. And as you've said, this is an item where we are looking for approval to submit the application for archaeology permits for the village. So I did ask our archaeologist Joanne Hammond to come to the meeting tonight because I thought people may have questions for her that I can't answer. But I just wanted to give you just a little bit of context on this. So I know council is aware. We did have since the fire, we've been operating under 2 archaeology permits that they've been calling the recovery permits. And all works, whether it was residential, commercial, or municipal work, has been falling underneath those permits. We were notified a while ago now that that the municipal work was no longer going to be under those permits. We'd have to get a separate permit for each municipal job that we wanted to do. So then in conversation with Joanne, it became apparent that maybe a more efficient way to do it would be have one permit for all municipal work. And we will still be required to provide specific details on projects as they are, as they are coming down the pipe kind of thing. We don't have all the details yet of how we're going to, what the ground disturbance is going to be if we do some work up at the water treatment plant or down at the wastewater treatment plant or wherever it may be. And so that kind of detail continues. We will continue to need to communicate, but these permits are intended to be kind of the overarching permits for all of the municipal work. So Joanne has worked hard on our behalf in preparing this information and in getting feedback from, you're familiar with the technical working group, and getting feedback from that group of people and incorporating it. And so that now we're ready to sort of submit these officially. And I just wanted council to have an idea that we were doing that, what's in the permits, to have a chance to look at it, ask questions, and then give us authorization to submit them. So I'll leave it at that. And then maybe questions you have are more likely for Joanne.
Thank you, CAO Member Cat. So I will open it to questions and comments.
Find the date.
Okay, Councillor Lightfoot.
My only comment is it's very complicated, and I am very happy to have a knowledgeable archaeologist working with us that can help us through this task. So as a novice, I have no criticisms. I'm just elated that we can maybe streamline the process so we don't lose a lot of time.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot.
Here it is.
And Councillor McCann.
There, I found it. On page 77 of 165 in our package, which I don't know if it matters or not, but it says document version history. Appendix A is the document. And then it says date updated April 15th, 2025. Is that correct? Is it 2025? I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a 26 thing, that it was a 2025 thing, because being April, I was just a little nervous that maybe we had the wrong year by mistake. And it was a summary of change, was alignment with revisions to 12.2 HCA HIP permit template. So I don't know, just
Okay, yeah,
right.
that's their document, not
Good.
how we fill it in.
Good.
That's just when they issued that version of that document.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a typo.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't know enough about it to know, right?
Yeah, no, it's not clear.
Yeah. No, hardly any of it. But I do want to say that I did notice going through that one of the spaces said that you won't have to we'll call it in our terms of the way we say it, even though it's probably not accurate.
Yeah.
Won't have to re-sift dirt that's already been sifted and checked for
Yes,
artifacts. I was really happy to see that.
that's
That's something I think that has happened maybe at least once.
probably. Yeah.
You know, what a lot of work. My goodness, thank you.
Mhm.
And so now, does it still wait for someone's approval, or is it simply likely just going to go ahead as is being submitted? Do you assume?
So they're going to do an expedited issuance. So they, because we've already done our like advanced consultation with LFN and NNTC, it still does have to go out for referral, but it's still going to be 2 weeks. So once I have the signatures on the documents, then I give it to the archaeology branch, they send it out. And so, 2 weeks plus 2 days, we'll have them in hand.
So that means when
That's what they say.
you have these jobs come up, like the sewer thing, so it should be covered as something, like I saw something about chance find in there too, that's still there. So then the process kicks in, right? The process is already there and it just sort of kicks in places where it needs to. Is that because you already have an archaeology plan, right? For the whole job, or do you still have to do these archaeology plans for every?
Like for the different projects. So
Yeah.
right now, like down on First,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the sewer. But then say the hub starts, like, is it all under one?
We have to submit, so it's called a multi-area permit. So the permit is the entire municipality. So anywhere within the municipality, we can do work. But we have to submit what's called a notice of intent to work
For each.
for a project. Yeah. And that gives First Nations 30 days to bring up any concerns, because of what multi-area or blanket permit, as it's called, is the consultation isn't sufficient at the beginning because you haven't identified any specific areas. So they can't really, know what the concerns might be. So when we have projects, we identify them and we send out, it's going to look a lot like the work plan that we've been doing, but just enough information so that they know where it is, what it is, and what the plan is. And then you have 30 days. And 99% of the time, nothing happens in those 30 days, that they just elapse and then you can start the work. And, but there are exceptions for emergencies and those kinds of things. What we did was put in every right-of-way surrounding all of the utilities in town as a project already. So we don't ever have to do that again. So under this permit. So if any road work, anything to do with utilities, anything needs to be excavated between private property lines, anywhere in the village, we can do that. It's already done. But for the hub, we haven't submitted that yet because we don't have the details.
Yeah, okay.
But for the village office, it has, correct? Or
It is going to go ahead under, so this is where it gets, so it's going to be a little bit
Sorry.
wiggy at first, is that the province will still hold their permits. And so that covers, that's what we've been working under up until now, is these provincial recovery permits. So that project was the village office, and the sewers that we're going to start tomorrow are already approved under that other permit.
okay.
When the new permits are issued, those projects will roll over basically so that they'll be under Lytton's permits and not the province's emergency permit. But the province's recovery permits will still be in place for homeowners, for residential development,
Oh, okay.
but
Until,
until they decide
okay.
not to. They just renewed them again, as far as I know. So that's still going to cover all of the residential building, but none of that will be covered under the permits that I'm taking out
No.
on behalf of Lytton. That is just for village business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 30-day lag is only for new projects. The sewer, the village office is going through.
Yeah.
Mayor O'Connor, did you have any comments or questions?
Well, I had 2 questions, but they've both been answered. Thank you very much.
Excellent. I have a quick question or two, just to reiterate. If there is archaeology discovered or impacted on private properties through this process, it will not be a financial burden of the property owner, that the municipality will, and the EMCR funding will cover that. Okay, that was my first question. And then on page 63 of 165 in this, it has historical sites, and it says, will this study assess historical sites subject to protection under the HCA? Yes, or sorry, no. Historic materials will be considered in relation to the archaeological sites from which they are recovered, and significant items may be collected and retained by the village of Lytton. Help me understand that.
Okay, so historical sites and artifacts are not archaeological. They post-date 1846.
Okay.
So they are not automatically protected under the Heritage Conservation Act, and we don't normally look for those items or address those items, but because Lytton is what it is, there's historic material mixed in everywhere, and the archaeology branch doesn't regulate that material in any way. So, and the museum won't take it if it's not archaeological. And we're talking about like bottles and coins and pipes and those kinds of things. And most of what we found so far has been quite fragmentary, but we do have a small collection of things that we found that sort of fit that category, like interesting historical artifacts that just don't have a home, basically. I've mostly been giving them to Brian, but I have some that I've been cataloging along with my other material that I will hand over to you. I don't know. It's not a lot of material compared to the archaeological stuff. It's just a few, but a few really neat little items are coming up. So yeah.
I'm sure the museum would be interested in. They lost a lot in their collection in the fire.
Yeah. Is there? Yeah.
It's a commission of the village, so
Last
they
question.
haven't got a space yet, but they will in the near future.
Good. Yeah. That's good.
The last question, there was a report reference from April 6, 2023 from AEW, Achini's report. Is that available to us? And if we've seen it before, I apologize, but is that something the council can see? And I don't know if maybe Diane and you have discussed that.
I don't know if anybody has had access to that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly which report it is just off the top, but I can look into it and let you know for sure. I can
That
look into
big one she did where they when I was still on the whatever we called it then.
It's probably the annual report for 2022.
We had that. Yeah, I think, right? Sounds like the same one I remember.
It's the only.
I just can't remember if it's public or not.
I'll look it up and confirm back.
Thank you, CAO Bombercat.
Yeah.
If there's no more comments or questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Carried. Thank you.
You.
Excellent.
Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne.
Enjoy the rest of your
Enjoy your evening. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to another report from our CFO/CIO, Diane Burkett, the 5-year financial plan. And I'll let you speak to it and then we'll put the motion on the table.
Yeah, and we looked at the 5-year financial plan at the last meeting, and we received direction from council to prepare the bylaw to bring forward for the 5-year financial plan. There's been no changes to the plan since the meeting on, I think it was March the 24th. The final assessment roll has been received from BC Assessment with no changes from the preliminary roll that we were using. So there was no adjustment made to the plan for that. And the only thing I wanted to mention, and I kind of do this at the risk of confusing the issue more than clarifying it, but there has been a lot of discussion around the property tax revenue number that changes from 2026 to 27, 28, 29, 30. And the revenue number itself, so the math, the difference between the 2026 and the 2027 number is 30%. So nobody's suggesting that taxes are going to go up 30%. or that they should. It's just the difference between the two numbers is 30%. If you look back to the financial plans from the last number of years, I believe 2023 is the first one that included 2027. Instead of showing an increase in property taxes, I showed it as a transfer out of reserves. So council has options when it comes to balancing the budget to zero. The budget must balance to zero. So the way that the village can do that is by raising revenue, by reducing expenses, or by transferring money out of reserves. So for 2023, 24, 25, when I did the 5-year financial plan, I didn't show the revenue increasing. I showed the reserve transfer instead. It's just a different way to show it. At the end of the day, beyond the current year, which we are now underway with a bylaw and moving towards tax rates, besides that, all of those other years are still open. And there could be so many things that can change between now and 2027, like a year's time when we're setting the tax rate. I mean, we can change the numbers, we can adjust them, we can move it from this line to that line, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything. We still are going to have a discussion in a year's time how we're going to fund that gap, whether it's going to be property taxes, whether or not we're going to eliminate positions, or whether we're going to use reserves. Those are really the options. So I think it was maybe got a bit more attention than it was probably deserved, because it wasn't meant to be any kind of there's been no decision made. There's no direction taken. The same options are on the table today that were on the table a year ago and the year before that. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, what I just said. But I did want to just try to explain that, it's not a 30% increase in taxes. That's not a recommendation. That's probably not a realistic solution for anybody. And we are in the fortunate position that we have healthy reserves and we have no debt. And there's not a lot of municipalities that are in that position, not a lot of small municipalities that are in that position. We have no debt, and that's very unusual. So, I do think it gives us a little bit of flexibility to solve these challenges. That's all the comments I have.
Thank you, CAO Member Kett. I will put the motion on the table. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Sure.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot, and a seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. So comments and questions. Councillor Lightfoot.
So if I can just rephrase what I think I heard you say. We're looking for a 30% increase in revenue. I think it's maybe easier for people not to trigger on the tax increase. So 30% increase in revenue, which could come from increased assessments. If we ever get any businesses in town, that's a higher rate than residential.
Yeah.
And reserves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I heard. Yeah.
And probably a combination of all. It's probably a combination of all of those things together.
Well, and the other thing is, this year, we'll end the year with either a deficit or a surplus. So if we end with a surplus, that surplus will just get carried forward to next year, which will lessen. So we need to be frugal every day in every way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that. Mayor O'Connor, do you have any comments?
Your mic.
You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you for explaining that so simply and clearly. I've heard it many times, and it always takes me time to understand that. So yeah, just thank you for that.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting, when you look at this year and you look at the additional taxes that we raised in this year's budget that were included in the 2026 budget, about a third of it comes from new construction added to the tax roll. About a third of it comes from an increase in value of property, and about a third of it comes from the increased tax rate. So it's all three things together are what have given the additional revenue. And so that's another reason why it's really difficult to predict where we're going to be in a year's time, because we do have a bit of an unstable situation right now in terms of assessed value for the village, because things are changing so quickly.
Councillor McCann and then Lightfoot.
Okay, Councillor CL Briquette, I'm looking at the 5-year financial plan, revenue and spending, Schedule A. And my guess is that somehow these numbers, they're not just magic, even though sometimes to me they seem like they might be magic. So I'm just kind of curious, because to me, this seems like you would have an amount, say, let's just say revenue. Let's go property taxes. So property taxes follow a little pattern, okay? So the actual, the budget, and then the forecast for the next couple of years, and that follows a pattern. There's a general increase there. And then when I go down to expenses, I would expect the same sort of thing, like that there would be a pattern, but I am having trouble trying to figure out what the patterns are on some of these things. And I thought maybe you could explain why there is no pattern to some of these things.
Well, and a lot of and you may remember from the conversation 2 weeks ago, a lot of the reason why there's no pattern, particularly from 2026 to 2027, is because in 2026 it includes expenses that are funded from the municipal affairs grant. And that's those expenses and that revenue are not there in 2027. So if you look at individual line items for expenses, almost none of them are going to make sense in that regard, because a whole bunch of expenses get carved out. I think it's about 907,000 of expenses in 2026. And there's a direct revenue to offset it. Those will not be there in 2027. So you see in the revenue side, the big number that doesn't make any sense is government transfers.
Yeah.
The very first line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's because all of those are reflected down below.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks. I knew there was an explanation. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Because what is that one? Water services is all over the place. Like, yeah. Okay.
And water services
Go ahead.
Water services is a tough one, because we're still trying to sort out our requirement for a level 2 operator and how we're going to get there. And so, I would say that of all of the areas that we're trying to do a budget for, water is probably the most difficult because of that. There's that one it's a legislative requirement, like we must have it. And, we're working on a couple of different things, and I think we've got a solution, but, it's been eluding us to this point.
Okay, Jessica.
Sorry, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm not sure if this is on topic. So a deputy mayor and CAO stop me if it's out of the scope. But so I know that when our citizens look at these numbers, their main concern is their tax bill. And I know that you've explained before that the tax bill also includes our collection for other agencies such as the RCMP, the school district, TNRD, and RCMP. Hospital.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, because in the back of my mind, I remember a few years ago, we looked at the assessment for this. I hope they don't feel picked on, but we looked at the assessment for the school board, and their collection, the amount of taxes they collected after the fire was the same, if I recall correctly, was the same as the amount of taxes they collected before the fire. It didn't seem to be adjusted with the assessment. So how can we influence those numbers, or are we just have no authority or influence?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if it's possible to influence them, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. I think what you're describing is that the school board, they give us a rate, and they say collect this rate per $1,000 of assessment. And as our assessments continued to go with the new builds, they never reduced their rate. They just kept, so one year they collected 80,000, then it was 100,000, then it was, where the other agencies asked us for a dollar amount. And so as the assessments increase, it's just the rate goes down. It's still the same dollar amount. That was the big difference, but where the school board kind of stuck out. But that's a very good point. And we'll see what we can do about that.
Great.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle, do you have any comments?
I was just wondering about the parcel tax, if that is something that we're gonna look at implementing as well with all the empty lots.
Yeah, and that was part of that initiative that you saw in the annual plan about looking at the water and sewer rates and look at, because it's kind of like an overall kind of a policy type of discussion. And so we will be bringing that for council's consideration within a very short period of time.
Thank you. I'll make a few comments. While I've looked into the consultation aspect of this, and I feel that we've followed the community charter, the Local Government Act, in that we had an open meeting where this was first presented and there was an opportunity for comment. However, in our messaging to the community and in the prelude to this report, it suggests that we had public consultation and presentation on the 5-year plan on February 25th, but we actually only got the 1 year, the 2026 plan at that meeting. So for that reason, and I think for the reason that the buildings that have already gone to tender that will be completed before the end of this plan have not been taken into account, I can't support third reading. I'd be happy to go through a first or second reading, and hopefully once I potentially have a little bit of face time with the community. And I don't know that we have to do this, but I believe it to be best practice. So I'm wondering if I'll take your comments, Councillor Lightfoot, but
I just wanted to point out that this motion is just to receive this information.
and we can discuss it in the last
And
bylaw
then
section.
the motion to move it ahead
Is later.
is in
Sure.
bylaws.
Okay. Point taken. Thank you. I appreciate your experience, sir. Okay, so we will put the motion on the table that council receive the 26 to 35-year financial bylaw for information.
We moved it already.
Oh, did we move it already? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm calling the question. All those in favor?
Lisa will let us know.
And opposed? That's toss opposed, and it's carried. Thank you. On to 7.3.1 Development Service Activity Report. And I think, is it Carolyn Lamont taking, our Director of Development, taking that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm just popping up here. There we go. Good evening. It's the first council meeting of the month. So here's the activity report. Building permits have kind of continued fairly steady. However, as you probably all know, the grocery store has submitted their revised permit, and I understand our building department has provided them their preliminary review. So that's exciting news. And as well, didn't quite make the March report, but the village office permit, I believe, is also in. And just so you know, in the activity report, I did break down the building permits by type as per Councillor Thoth's question for a few meetings, so I just thought it'd be easier just to put that in the meeting in the attachment. The OCP is continuing to move forward. We have the community conversations for emergency preparedness on April 16th, and then Lytton identity and or vision or community character will go April 20th. I think we all agree there's been some really meaningful discussions, and I also would say that even prepping for them becomes almost a background document for the OCP policy sections. So that's really it's great work. Just really getting to learn the topics and the community's input into them. As far as housing, we're working on the contract discussions with both Lane 1 and South Pier on the essential housing proposal call. And next meeting, you will see some background or some direction and reports related to road closure and rezoning those properties. Pacific Can, I'm finalizing the costs and schedules, and that application's pretty much done. I have to say it was a relief in some respects just because of the costing for the village offices. It's just easier to get it done right the first time, not to go in, which is what I think most people have done before that extension. So kudos for the mayor's letter, and I know Melissa was a big part of that as well from communications. And then finally, good news is we did get the BC Hydro Regreening Program, which was for street trees of $5,000. So we're just working on a work program and in discussions with some people in the community that have knowledge of trees. So that should be coming forward through the summer. And that's my report in case you have any detailed questions on the report itself.
Thank you, Carolyn. Are there any questions, comments? Yeah. Councillor McCann.
I'm now excited about the trees.
Yeah, me too.
But I also said carefully because what I know and what other people know, there's vast difference there. So as we're all quite familiar, I was pulling out weeds yesterday in the backyard here and looking at like so many people are so keen to engage in growing stuff in their community. So I'm really curious about the process you have in mind for making sure we hear from everyone before we go ahead and buy any trees. just note of caution there. Let's just make sure it's all transparent and everybody had their moment to say their favorite tree and whose yard they don't want it in front of, and all the little things that are going to pop up when you start getting excited about trees. So yeah, because I want to be able to engage myself. So just saying.
Good advice. We did reach up even with the grant application to a few community members. And then we also are excited because we now have a horticulturalist on staff, which I also think is really important and will help us move forward. So yes, I have a meeting with Tanya on Friday just to talk.
Nice.
I think it's Friday. Oh no, Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Mayor O'Connor, do you have any comments online? Councillor Michelle, Councillor Lightfoot. Yes.
I'm not sure if water always became an issue, and I'm sure you know those little soaker bags. Hopefully that'll be part of the budget, maybe to get them through the hottest times.
It was part of the grant application. So funding.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot. Yeah, it was actually suggested to me by a community member yesterday to get those bags for some of the trees that we already have in the village. And specifically the one at the entrance. I guess there was quite a few trees around the sign, the Welcome to Lytton sign that's kind of falling apart. What's that called? The Triangle Park?
Flag Park.
Flag Park. And I think from what I understand, there's one tree still alive, and it was suggested that could use a bag. I don't know if that's on your radar, but it is the entrance, so it's a fairly important tree. Thank you, Carolyn. I also wanted to make a comment about this, the trees. That's fantastic. Would we be able to use some of that grant money for like irrigation for the trees as well? Or is it just buying and planting?
It's buying and planting, and then with the bags to keep them to a survival rate. I think that's something that we're in discussions with Public Works just about that, how that would go about. So I don't know if CAO member Cat wants to add anything on that.
Yeah, we haven't really got the full plan flushed out yet. So yeah, but we'll be coming back with some more information for sure. We just got the announcement at the end of last week that we got approved for the grant, so we're just very
Fantastic
excited.
news. Thank you.
It's very excited.
Yeah. And then another question there, the ACO trailer was mentioned for a temporary business use. And I was wondering if there has been any room for council input on that. Or is there any room for council input on that?
We haven't signed any leases or done anything like that, but as far as just improving the ACO trailer, typically that would be administrative, but again, Councillor or CEO member Cat, do you want to add anything on that? I know that we had gone quite down further, actually down this road, about a year and a half ago, before my time.
Yeah.
Got quite.
Yeah, I mean, I think once we have a proposal, we'll be bringing it to council for approval. So,
Would it be
yeah,
appropriate for a council to have a proposal and bring it forward?
for
I'm
council to
thinking
make
of,
a proposal.
yeah, I'm thinking of like, and it might just be me, but it would be nice to have it on the table about using it for village use. Like I have this thing in my head about getting the village operations into the village, and our village office, we are hoping for this summer, late summer, but we might be into next year by now. So, if that was an option, maybe it could be something that we could discuss and maybe get like our director of operations using it, or somebody that's actually boots on the ground. I'm just so concerned that we don't have somebody working in the village, and that would facilitate that. And I'm just wondering if we could maybe discuss that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't think it would be appropriate for council to bring that forward. I think, staff does that work, and then they will flesh out the best use of those kinds of things that we have. And then, as Diane said, we'll bring it to council for discussion, for approval.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Yes.
I'm remaining hopeful that by December we'll be moved into our new village office, and it's a short period of time between now and then. So that would be my focus, is to
Thank you.
get the permanent established.
I believe we were given a 1-year timeline in one of our documents. Yeah. Once the shovel hits. Okay. Is there any other comments or questions on the development report? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh,
Councillor
sorry.
Todd, we don't have
We
a
have to
mover or
put the motion.
seconder. Yeah.
Okay, somebody to move that motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
And Councillor Lightfoot will second.
Yeah.
And I'll call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? None. Carried. Sorry, Mayor O'Connor, I didn't even look up for your vote, but I'm assuming it was aye. Thank you. Okay. So now we are on to 3.1 or 3.2, 7.3.2, and that is road closure. So over to CAO Lumbercat.
It's actually Director of Development.
Oh, I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say, and over to Carolyn.
Over to Ms. Lamont. I apologize. Thank you.
This is the road closure. I think you've been waiting this for a bit. Certainly all the parties from New Pathways to Gold have been. This road closure just accommodates the Chief Spitland Park improvements and also a forthcoming subdivision called consolidation to facilitate that park. So first it's the closure of Fraser Street north to from 7th north to Highway 12. And then the second one is the internal lane behind Parish Hall and closing it. Now those will, just to clarify, those will continue to be municipally owned. It's just they will not be roads where people drive on them. they'll be more pedestrian and focused.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
And thank you. Councillor Lightfoot's making that motion in the seconder.
I'll second that.
Councillor McCann, thank you. Are there any comments, questions on this?
One small comment.
And Councillor McCann.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I recognize the time, trouble, and effort that's gone into this, and thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah. All right, then, if there's no more comments, we've got Mayor O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you very much for the work that's gone into this. I just want to make sure that we're communicating what this actually is. I've heard some comments, concerns from people that they won't be able to access the parish hall because of roads being closed. So I think they have to understand that it's roads in the park that are being closed, not the roads that access the parish hall. So just that we make sure that we're communicating well. Thank you.
Yeah, correct. And I will say that the map can be a little deceiving. It looks a lot bigger than it is. So the little corner piece is Chief Spitland Memorial. And even I have to say there are many times where I went back in and double checked because it's a bit confusing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I did actually have a question about that as well. I heard some mumblings, but I'm not sure where it sits. I know that there's access, that people have taken their own accord to make access from the extension of the road onto the beginning of Chief Spitland Bridge behind the parish hall here. And I'm wondering what the status of that path is so that there will be access so people don't keep cutting the chain link fence to get through.
I'll speak to it then Councillor McCann may want to jump in too. The plans right now obviously don't have the formalized trail, but there's nothing with this road closure and the extra 2 or 3 months that it took is to show that can abut. And so I think the next step is just to design for the trail and to find funding for it.
Thank you. That's great. Any other comments, questions? Mayor O'Connor? Nope. Okay, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And passed. Thank you. Next, we have 3.3 zoning amendment bylaw for temporary housing. And I will turn that over to, I think, Carolyn again.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
back again. This one, after a very complicated meeting last time, 2 weeks ago on the 24th, this brings back zoning amendment bylaw number 776 with some of the changes that was requested from council, particularly as it related to a condition for our recreational vehicle use, which was to connect to municipal water and sewer. But upon reflection and a discussion with Public Works, the wastewater treatment operator, we decided, we decided that it was best to ask. Well, I think that the key is that we wanted there to be awareness about that you need to deal with your waste and you need to deal with your water and that it's not an afterthought. So we just want them in a management plan to have a management plan that's approved by the village and be part of the building permit application that's pending. And that would be, it could be, well, we're going to use we're going to go fill them up at someone's house or someone's water service, and then we're going to pump out every 2 weeks. Or it could be connected to municipal services. And this is also interesting because we did talk a little bit about what it will cost to formalize and might be a revenue generator for proper sandy disposal as well. So that was the first change, so that they removing the requirement to connect to municipal and sewer and water, it was to submit a potable water and wastewater management plan for approval and plan to be part of the building permit approval. And then there was also added that if the building permit expires, a recreational vehicle shall no longer be a permitted use. That's just, it's fairly implied in the definition, but again, what we don't want is people never unconnecting or abandoning their building permit. And then you just have a town full of RVs. Um, and then the last one is Councillor Thoss. I think you brought up what is tire insurance. I decided to make it easy and just say trailer insurance that will enable the recreational to be moved in accordance with section 3.363, which is removal in the short notice. So those are the changes before you right now, and the recommendation is just to consider second reading, and that notice of the initial readings of zoning amendment bylaw be provided in accordance with statutory requirements. This one is consistent with the OCP, so it just needs a notice requirement, not a public hearing.
So Carolyn, you're suggesting we do second reading tonight and then third on the 21st? That's great.
Yes, we need to do a requirement, the notice requirements, which go out today or have gone out.
Okay, comments or do you want to put the motion on the table? Anyone?
So just to clarify, this motion right now is just to receive the report for information. Yeah.
Okay. Are we able to comment on the contents of the bylaw now, or should we wait? Or is that like, I just have a little tweak I wanted to suggest. It's appropriate now, or?
It's up to you. You can do it either or. But when we do the readings, you can say as amended. So yeah.
Okay. I wanted to suggest an amendment. Is there anybody else that wants to make a comment before I do so? Okay. I was just reading through it and I thought I understand everything in there, and I think it's fantastic. And thank you for the work on this. I think it's important. The submitting a potable water and wastewater management plan, I felt it was a little sort of subjective as to what that could mean for a person. Somebody might look at that and think it's really an onerous task, where somebody else would be just like, oh, I understand, it's just whipping it off. So I'm thinking, how we're going to have a safety form for people to sign off on, that they have their insurance and they have their carbon monoxide or smoke alarms in there. And that's a form they're going to have to sign. Would it be possible to put the wastewater and potable water plan on the same form to simplify it, so it becomes part of the application when you go in there to show your trailer? And it's not something that people are going to have to sort of figure out exactly what you want, but rather they tick this box. How are you doing it? They answer the question. So it's laid out for them, more than like a blank slate of provide us a plan. Because like I say, that might seem onerous to somebody that doesn't maybe understand that it doesn't have to be a big deal. Whereas if you just had in the safety declaration, which ensures compliance. So you're signing off that you have compliance with your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. On that same sheet, there would be a line that says, what is your wastewater plan? And then it could be consolidated in one place, one sheet of paper, less work for people, and one less line of red tape.
I would suggest that that's probably what we end up doing anyways. We would just ask them to fill that out as part of their when they're applying. Yeah, and given that for the most part, we'll probably get a few of these in the next, 6 months. As long as I'll be there, there'll be a precedent in how they go, and not to be super onerous. The term management plan is it's what it is. How are they managing their waste? It may sound a bit onerous, but it's really, where are you getting your water and how often are you removing your waste?
Could we put that on the safety form and get rid of bullet 1 and just include it in the safety declaration line in 3.37?
I actually, as someone, take a different look at that. I always think that people in the zoning bylaw, they think that's everything. And so they use it as a checklist. And I would be more nervous that they came back later and didn't know that this was something they needed to do. I always like to be very upfront.
Well, it would be in there. It would be in the, it would be in with the property owners should complete the village RV safety declaration, which ensures compliance, blah, 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 and will include a water and potable water. And I think Councillor Lightfoot, then McCann after me.
I think it's of utmost importance that they have a good handle on how they're going to manage their water and waste. I don't see it as onerous. If you can't figure out how you're going to water and relieve yourself, then maybe living in the village isn't the best scenario. I mean, we have staff that will help people through this process. I don't think we want to wordsmith it tonight. I think what's presented is good and good enough and manageable for most people, especially when as I added in, we have helpful, friendly staff to assist them. And I would hope that that's a goal of ours, to always maintain that interface with the public with good staff.
So basically what I'm hearing is that we are getting into the weeds. You're getting into the weeds, telling staff how to deal with a policy that we're just going to approve. So if we all agree that it's important that this be included, therefore it's in the policy, then that's what we're voting on right now. If we don't want to be telling staff how to make sure that happens, because as Councillor Lightfoot said, they're pretty good at that kind of thing. So that, to me, that's where we're at right now, is that you put some valid suggestions forward. I'm sure you were heard, but right now that's probably not what we're doing.
And if I may, this is just a motion to accept the report for information.
Yeah.
The actual bylaw is later on in the agenda, and that I would suggest is the more appropriate
Place to wordsmith if there was some wordsmithing to be made.
to amend if necessary.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot. Just to be clear, I wasn't recommending removing that, just putting it in with the other bullet. However, we are not voting on that, and I can hear what Councillor McCann is saying. I understand. Mayor O'Connor?
Yeah, no comments.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle. Nope. I guess I'll make my comment when the bylaw comes up again. I had one more little, what Councillor McCann would call wordsmithing, but I'll leave it at that. Let's call the question. Have we put that on the table?
Not yet.
Not yet. May I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Michelle. And I will call the vote then. All those in favor? And against? And sorry, Mayor O'Connor, you voted in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Toss, or Acting Mayor Toss, did you vote against?
No, I voted for it.
Oh, you did. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now where are we? So we're on to bylaws for reading. 8.1.1 Financial Plan 2026 to 2030. May I have a motion to put that on the table?
So move Lightfoot.
Thank you, Lightfoot.
Second.
And seconded by Mayor O'Connor. Okay. Thank you. CAO Member Kett, did you want to speak to that?
I don't have any other comments to make in relation to the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions, Mayor O'Connor, online? No? Anyone in the room? No. I just, further to my comments earlier, I can't support this without a, it's not that I think that we're in contravention of the community charter, because we did have the opportunity for people to speak at our public meeting when it was presented. However, we advertised that on February 25th, we were having a public consultation on our 5-year plan, and we did not have that. We had a 1-year plan presentation. So I can't support this bylaw. Is there any other comments or questions? Mayor O'Connor.
Yeah, I just, yes, I'm unmuted. So your concern is around the advertising. It's not around the bylaw. Is that correct?
Well, I have concerns about the bylaw as well, that we're passing a 5-year plan without taking into account the buildings and the infrastructure that we're building that will be completed within that 5-year plan. So we put buildings out to tender without a plan on how we're going to pay for it. So that's another reason why I don't support it.
Okay, I would argue that the 5-year plan is not a plan to manage buildings, but anyways, that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And against? So that is carried with Deputy Acting Mayor, Councillor Toss, opposed. And we will move on to, moving right along to 8.1.2 road closure bylaw, number 774, 2026. May I have a mover for that? Councillor McCann. Seconded by Councillor Michelle. And I think we've heard about this earlier in tonight's meeting. Is there anything additional that people would like to add to that? Mayor O'Connor? No? Okay, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that's unanimous and carried. Thank you. And on to 8.1.3 road closure bylaw 7.7, or sorry, number 775, 2026, Fraser Street. For second and third readings to road closure. May I have a mover, Councillor McCann, and seconded by Councillor Lightfoot. Any more comments or questions? Online, Mayor O'Connor? Nope. I will call the question. All those in favor? And carried. Thank you. On to zoning amendment bylaw temporary housing number 776, 2026. Can I get someone to put the motion on the table? Councillor Lightfoot moves it and seconded by McCann. And I think we've just discussed that. And I think most of us had our comments. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on the zoning amendment bylaw? So I'll just follow up with my second comment. So the one, I won't get into the weeds, Councillor McCann, I appreciate what you're saying in terms of letting the staff do their job. But I do not believe in red tape and like telling people what to do. And I very much think that us telling people that the village of Lytton does not recommend living in a trailer in the colder climate, it's not really up to us, because some people will be building throughout the winter. Some people can live like that, do live like that while they're building. And I don't think it's up to us to make a judgment call on what people are comfortable with. So I would like to see that line removed. If there's anybody on council that would support that, I'd put a friendly amendment forward.
Could I just jump in for a second?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that I'd have to go back to check to make sure, but I believe it was recommended that we include that just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence by letting people know that we're not encouraging this. We're not because there could be risk to people. And so for the village to take, to protect ourselves, to make sure that there's no liability coming back to us.
My understanding is what happens on people's private property is not the liability of the village. That's what I like that.
I was going to make a comment similar to our CAO that if we allow it to be established and don't give any caution to hazardous conditions that could be harmful to them, that we have a certain liability. So
Don't wear
it's just
a tie.
precautionary. I'm sorry?
Like, don't wear a tie while using a paper shredder?
No. Okay. But it's different. You're living there. I mean, there's a number of issues. Never mind the frozen water and sewer if you're hooked up. I don't see it as telling people what to do. I just think it kind of, unfortunately, liability is an issue. And if you don't warn people that, we don't support this. Well, the village said I could, and then something happens, it could blow back on us. And so I just see it as a precautionary comment to discourage people from thinking it's okay.
Okay. But to be clear, what happens on people's private property is not the village's
Like the
liability.
village isn't saying what to do or what not to do. All they say is we do not recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the hill I'm dying on. I will call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Oh, sorry, Mayor O'Connor was in favor and opposed is Tots. Thank you. And moving on, we're doing well. Correspondence. So we have 3 items on our list of correspondence this evening, and we will start with The Canyon Cruise Society event support request, Canyon Cruise and Site Map. And that is an event coming up this May 17th in the village. And the organizers are requesting some sidewalk sweeping, use of village barricades, portable generator, leveling of gravel in front of the Legion, side of 4th Street, notifying residents of no parking during the event on May 17th. And then I've seen this has already been done as a posting of the notice of the event on the Village of Lytton website. So, and I think it came out in the newsletter as well. So, Councillor Lightfoot.
I actually want to make a comment that I think it's a great event, and I'm really thankful that these people are organizing it. I would like staff to somewhat make the decision regarding the hub, in that there may be surveying and construction started. So I'm not really confident that the hub location lot won't be busy with other activities. And it's sort of the same for the village office will be under construction. So I'm not sure that they're aware that that portion of the street might be compromised. So I would like to ask staff to make that decision. Otherwise, everything else they ask for, I think, is part of what we gave them last year. The barricades and the generator and things like that, and the street sweeping.
Mayor O'Connor, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do. I also had the question around the staging area for the water and sewer project on the hub property, whether that will be available or not, as well as I know last year Public Works worked really hard the days leading up to it to do that cleaning and raking and removing rocks and leveling and everything that they're requesting here on the streets. And I again leave it up to staff. I just hope that we do have the time and the availability for them to do that.
And I can just let council know that we have been in communication with them, and will continue. A number of the areas that they are looking for will have construction or are being used as laydown yards. So, but we've been working with the contractors and working with the organizers to see, to get everything as cleaned up as we can. So we'll continue to do that between now and the event.
Mayor O'Connor.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion then that staff respond back, or maybe mayor, council respond back to say that yes, we support their requests here. Sorry, just aside, I just thought of regarding insurance. Have you had discussions with them regarding their event insurance?
I can comment on that. Yes, I have. Yes,
Okay.
they are required to show insurance and have the
Perfect.
village listed.
Thank you. Sorry, and I put a motion forward to respond to them to say we will do our utmost to honor their requests.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. And a seconder, if anyone would like to second Mayor O'Connor's motion.
I'll second, sure.
Seconded by Councillor McCann. Is there any discussion on that?
I thought they were asking for money.
No.
No? No. Okay. Oh, good.
Just a comment. I know that the chamber will be putting up a booth, and I don't know if the village wants to put out any sort of supporting documents or whatever. If there's anything that we would like to share, we could potentially work with the chamber on putting stuff out. The Chamber of Commerce is going to try and do a bit of a membership drive. And I believe they're hoping to use the opportunity with the outside, like the people from the coast coming up here with an open mind that don't know a lot about Lytton, to get some, and I think the chamber's hoping to get some feedback with people that totally open-minded, saying, what would it take for you to invest in Lytton? What interests you about Lytton? What puts you off about it? So we can get some data around that from people outside of the community. So if there isn't any more comments, I'll call Mayor O'Connor's question. All those in favor? And I assume Mayor O'Connor's in favor, so that is carried. Yep, thank you. Moving on to 9.1.2, and this is correspondence from Judith and Ross Urquhart regarding the 5-year financial plan. And I trust we've all had a chance to read that. And this letter's concerning the 5-year plan and just concerns around consultation. Is there any comments from the floor on that? Councillor Lightfoot?
Just that I'd like to share that in my experience with municipal budgets, both at the TNRD and in the municipality in the past, that the budget for the upcoming year was always part of the public participation. But the 5-year plan was sort of extrapolated from that. It was easier before it was, when it was more consistent. But even with the consistency we had in the past, every year you might come out with a surplus or a deficit, and then you had to incorporate it into the next year's budget. So while you could have sort of a ballpark figure on what next year, never mind 5 years from now, might be, I never experienced that those budgets were exactly the same when you got to them in subsequent years. So there was one, so it says, there was one comment in there that I thought was, yeah, you're right. There was one comment that said, you appear to be depending on these new municipal structures to attract residents who will build new homes. Definitely. If we have nothing to attract people here, there won't be any interest in moving to our community. And I believe that is our hope, that we're trying to, even through the chamber or whoever else, we are trying to encourage people to rebuild. And if there's amenities, they will be more likely to settle here. I talked to some residents from above the highway about the pool, and they said, yeah, I've got grandkids. I want them to learn how to swim. I look at the health center being built on Main Street with assisted and independent seniors living. And I think they will need a place to congregate and do activities. So I know it's sometimes it's causes fear to the unknown causes fear. But on the other hand, I think we have to be proactive to build a community. I don't think we want our community to wither. So I understand their concerns and their fear about being overtaxed. I think the process is what it's always been in my experience. I wish I knew some way to calm their fears, but that's good. There's conversation. I don't know that there's any response we can have. I believe staff has spoken with them. I could be wrong.
Has staff spoken with them?
I haven't spoken to Ross and Judith. Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
Jesua asked.
No, I haven't spoken to them.
Okay, so I think we should respond to the letter with an acknowledgement, and I disagree with Councillor Lightfoot in the new structures. I totally agree new structures attract people, but also low taxes attract people. So I think there's a trade-off, there's a fine balance, and that's where our challenge lies, right? So before I continue, Mayor O'Connor. I don't want to forget you online.
Thank you. Yes, I think CAO Marbuquette did a very good job earlier explaining how it works with the 5-year plan and the percentages that were listed there. I agree with much of what Councillor Lightfoot said as well. There are a lot of fears from a lot of people, and but I also have spoken to a number of people who are saying, and taxpaying, not just people outside, but taxpayers locally saying, we have to have these amenities here. We won't survive without it. And I know, as I said to one a newspaper or media interview recently, I said, we were elected to rebuild our community. And so that's where I stand. But yeah, I agree with you, Councillor Toss, that we do need to respond to this letter.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. CAO Mombercat?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Toss. I'd just like to make a couple comments about the just about the process itself. And it's never perfect when you're trying to design, an opportunity for people to provide input and that type of thing. I will say, and again, it doesn't mean it's right, but we did the exact same thing this year that we've done for the last 3 or 4 years. The process was exactly the same. The dates were almost identical. They just shifts with the calendar. But that doesn't mean it's the best process. That's just an observation. The other thing I'll say is, I think that like in terms of the community charter and what's required, I mean, council have an obligation to provide consultation opportunities with the residents, but it's fairly undefined. And I think that's deliberate because each community is different and each council is different and the relationship with their community is different and how they operate. And so, I've had conversations with some of my municipal affairs colleagues who I do talk to about these things to make sure that we're, doing what we're supposed to do and we're on side and whatnot. And, they said that, they said it's different everywhere. Everybody does the process a little bit differently. So that doesn't mean that we can't change our process. We can't improve it. We can't evolve. But I don't think we're that much of an outlier in terms of what we did and the process that we followed this year or the last 3 or 4 years. Thank you.
Thanks, CAO Mombercat. Councillor Lightfoot talks about calming fears, and I appreciate that. And I think one way that we could calm fears is by giving taxpayers an opportunity to actually meet with council. And I know this is a fluid document, so it's not necessarily time sensitive, but I think that people in the community have many questions. I think that the 5-year plan should include buildings that have already gone to tender. And I do think that we falsely advertised a February 25th meeting would cover our 5-year plan. For those reasons, I would love to see, and I don't know why we wouldn't do this, some sort of a taxpayers consultation. And to Mayor O'Connor's point too, there's going to be people that are in support of this that are going to come up with ideas like we've discussed in the past on how to make the village the best it can be. So I'm not afraid of a taxpayers consultation meeting, and I hope that we can.
Well, it was advertised on the village site.
Only the 1-year plan, the annual plan.
Yeah, and then it's February 25th to March 14th. Email any comments or questions to cfo@lytton.ca regarding the online budget consultation period.
Yeah,
it was advertised, it was on here.
Unfortunately. So regardless, there was some misunderstanding within the community, and I don't think that we want to shortchange our community. Our community is the most important. The people living in this village are our number one concern. And if they are concerned, we should be concerned. So I know we're elected to make decisions, but there is nothing wrong with having a meeting before they put. Go ahead, sorry.
So I looked at the village newsletter, and on March the 27th, it said next steps. After the village receives their final property assessment, the 5-year plan will be developed. So our timeline is hinged on other agencies that we have no control over. There's a lot of balls in the air, and
With their funds.
And, if there's something specific, if there's some item line in there that we can change, if there's a concrete suggestion on how to make it better, I'm more than willing to listen. But I find it very difficult to respond to just a generalized fear. I mean, my biggest fear this morning was that we were going to be in World War III by the end of the day, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry.
Mombercat?
I was just going to add, as you know, from the 100 times that I've said it, in terms of our timeline, The 5-year financial plan bylaw needs to be adopted before the tax rate bylaw. And we do have statutory deadlines associated with this. The discussion, the points in the letter and most of what you're talking about is 2027 onward. It's not 2026, and 2026 is what we need to develop a tax rate bylaw. So I would like to suggest that we continue on the timeline that we have for the 5-year financial plan bylaw and the tax rate bylaw so that we can meet our statutory deadline. And if council wishes, they can hold a meeting with taxpayers and we can amend the 5-year financial plan bylaw 2027 to 2030 at a later time. We can do it next week. We can do it next month. Council can amend it anytime they wish. 2026, once the tax rates are set, the 2026 bylaw budget can be amended as well. But we need to move this process along so that we can meet the deadlines that are required.
Thank you, CAO Montague. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
I'll just say thank you to the Urquharts for continuing to be involved and sharing their concerns with us, and that we do take them seriously. And they, like everything else, you may or may not get what you want, but at least you can ask.
Councillor Lightfoot.
Well, and I'd like to thank our CAO for stating the obvious that the 5-year plan can be amended anytime. And if we want to work on it, we can work on it between now and December. Or hopefully sooner than later, but we may have more details on the projects that are developing.
Would council entertain a motion to have a taxpayers meeting at the earliest convenience after to have a look at the 5-year plan? I'd like to put that motion on the table, and that is that at staff's convenience that we arrange a public consultation on our 5-year plan, which is fluid, to find areas for improvement. Do I have a seconder? Seeing no second, the motion, Mayor O'Connor, are you interested in seconding that?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Okay, so that motion fails and we will move on. And there's more comments?
If I can make a comment.
Absolutely.
This is just me personally. I don't know how the rest of people work, but I need time to digest information before I make a motion.
Sure.
So, unless it's really evident that it has to be done, I have to digest it. And I'm looking at the reports we got tonight, the workload that our staff has, and I don't feel they have an extra second in the day to add on to their to-do list. So that in part, I would like to think about that, and maybe at a later date when they say, oh, we actually were able to take a day off or whatever, maybe load them up with new tasks. But at this point, I think they're all, I'm pretty sure, just seeing the reports that were produced tonight, that's a lot of time and effort to compile that data and put it in such fine form. So I'm not saying never, but not right now.
Any other comments on that before we move on to our next correspondence? Mayor O'Connor?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion that we respond to this letter.
As just received, Mayor O'Connor?
Sorry, that we respond to this letter. I'd like to make a motion that we respond to the letter to the
Urquharts?
to the Urquharts. Yeah.
Just saying we've received, appreciate the comments.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I think it's really important, as Councillor McCann said, we don't get a lot of letters in, and I think it is good to hear from public. That's the best way to do it, I believe, is writing letters, yes. Sharing, and that it is appreciated.
I'll second that motion.
And if there's no comments on that, all those in favor? Right. And opposed, seeing none, carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to correspondence. 2.1. And this is a donation towards the refurbishing of the antique fire truck project. And it's a $2,000 donation from a resident, Peggy Shute. And she's requested a receipt for income tax purposes. Are there any comments?
I'll make the motion that we receive it.
Okay, and the seconder?
I'll second.
Seconded from Councillor McCann.
I'll make a comment now.
Yes, and comments.
And the comment is, I'm not surprised. Such a generous woman that's contributed to our community for so long. And I'm sure that hopefully when she comes up sometime, she'll see the refurbished fire truck, maybe in a parade or something.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. May I ask a question? If this does, if we receive it and we're going to refurbish it, whose job is that? Is that going to be?
Huntley's doing that. It's a project Huntley's doing.
Oh, okay. Use my ignorance. Okay.
No, that's a
Nice to know some
project
background.
that's been ongoing.
Okay, fantastic. And then where does the antique fire truck end up when we're done?
I'm sure he will donate it back to the village. I guess we'll find out.
Park it somewhere? Great. Okay.
New fire.
Maybe, oh yeah, or where the caboose was? No. Any other comments? Okay, should we have a motion to write a letter to say thank you to Peggy?
Just receive it.
Just received?
Oh, it says, okay,
A
right.
receipt for income tax purposes.
Right.
Could we please include a thank you note with that, staff? Yeah, I'm seeing a nodding of CAO member Cat. Thank you. We'll skip the motion and just trust you'll write something nice. Okay, I think that brings us to the, oh, thank you. So we have, did we vote?
It was put on the table.
Okay, so we must vote on receiving that 2,000, and it was moved by Lightfoot, seconded by McCann. All those in favor? Aye. And Mayor O'Connor's in favor as well. That's carried. Thank you for everyone's patience with me this evening. And Mayor O'Connor, your verbal report.
Okay, thank you. So on March 25th, I attended the Hub PAC meeting. There was a good discussion regarding the operation of the Hub building, so what that might look like in the future. So definitely some good input from everybody involved. It was fairly lengthy discussion, and particularly around the potential or possibility of forming maybe a society or a board to operate it once it's built. So, of course, no decisions made, but they had some excellent input. March 26th, I attended the Thompson Hospital District Board meeting in Kamloops and a TNRD board meeting. At the hospital district meeting, of course, this board approves capital funding for IHA facilities around. And one of the things on the list for upcoming is for a primary health center here in Lytton to receive a new ECG machine. The TNRD board at the board meeting adopted the 2026-2030 5-year financial plan report and bylaw, a very similar process to what we went through here in the village as well. I think Councillor McCann mentioned, or sorry, Councillor Lightfoot mentioned that her experience was that as well. Just a note that on the TNRD website, if anybody's interested, they can go in and find an infographic for each municipality, ours included, that shows the breakdown of the taxes that the TNRD collects based on showing the cents per, I think it's per $100,000 assessment for property owners. So there's that. March 27th, I attended a meeting that was between the Museum Committee and the Hub Architects. Excellent conversation, and I think the architects took some of the input feedback away to work on. April 30th, I attended the Lytton Health Planning Table meeting in the morning. And there was really nothing new to report there, other than I think I've mentioned it before. There's a technical working group that is working on some of what's needed in order to keep things moving ahead around the rebuild of the facility in the location in town. And that same afternoon, I attended the Enzenman Open House. Wonderful to tour their new building that's in progress. So that is my report.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. And on to Acting Mayor Councillor Cost. I don't have much to report, just attended Monday's Easter, yesterday's Easter potluck was lovely. I went to the chamber meeting earlier in the week and appreciate CAO Marquette attending and bringing the chamber up to date on what the village is doing in terms of supporting businesses. And you know, it was touched on with archaeology. And I think once CAO Marquette left the meeting, one of the business owners to be reiterated how, I mean, he's not a burnout, so he's a new business owner getting ready to build, how difficult it's been navigating the archaeology. And I think it's our first non-burnout rebuilding. So I do hope, I know it's a dance, but I'm hoping that we can, you know, as our annual plan, I think, said that we're supporting people with their permits in archaeology. So I'm wondering if we can still look at that, because I think it is a huge deterrent for people that are wanting to invest in the village. They're scared of the unknowns. So however we can mitigate that, let's work on it. And then I'm glad to hear from our engineer, Daryl Exani, that he's working still behind the scenes a little bit with BC Hydro, trying to minimize our unnecessary overhead wires across Main and Fraser. That again is very difficult because of the sewer line and the easement required to put the pools back down Center Lane. But it's nice to know that work's being done, because otherwise we're going to have a lot of high wires across Main and Fraser as development continues. So that is my report. On to Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Attended a few things. I was at the coffee with the mayor for the 30th of March and the 6th of April, and it was a nice potluck yesterday. Yes, indeed. 25th of March, I also went to the Project Advisory Committee for the Hub Building with the mayor. The 27th of March, we had a Chief Spintland Park Project Task Force meeting, and we had our Planning Director, Carolyn Lamont, attend that meeting to just provide more information from the village. And basically the outcome is there's short of money to finish the project as planned. The New Pathways to Gold organization has kind of regrouped and is looking for access to more funding to at least get the Volkswagen version, if not the Cadillac version, completed. And so it was encouraging to hear that kind of support is out there, and that we might see, who knows, a grand opening one day. I went to the Denman Bird's Nest building event with that, actually with Nicholas and Jamie live from the Fraser Lands Church. And it was nice to see them recognized for their donation to that project. They made a financial contribution, and it is just a fabulous building. It's going to be so nice. And I just commend the Zenman Group for all their work and for keeping the community involved as they go along. And on April 1st, I attended the Community Collaboration Planning Session. That was with, and Zenman is basically taking the lead on that. And that's Ramona Baxter and a group of service providers in the area working together on a 2-day session to improve collaboration between agencies. And in fact, just kind of, I'm there kind of as a general person, contributing what I know from being here a long time. I'd like to express my admiration for the progress made so far on the Bird's Nest building. As like I said, it was truly beautiful and wonderful place for the community children to grow and learn. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Councillor Michelle.
Thank you, report.
Thank you. And Councillor Lightfoot.
Not a lot. On the 27th, I met with the museum group and the architect and the mayor. And I think there may be a few modifications or tweaks. Yeah, tweaks. On the 31st, NDIT was going to hold their meeting in 100 Mile, but they looked at the weather and they decided, okay, we're going to do a Zoom. I mean, I think we were all surprised about the amount of snow up there at that point. So they approved their first round of grant applications, and it's confidential until the proponents are notified. But the next meeting is June the 30th, I guess. And just listening to the Spintland Park and New Pathways to Gold, I don't know if they would qualify, but NDIT is a great organization, especially since they've got so much invested, they may be able to access funds to finish it off. But again, the next round is June the 30th. So I would assume the applications have to be put in April, maybe.
Okay.
It's a great organization. If they just phone and tell them their story, they'll tell them, sure, put an application in, or sorry, you don't qualify, don't waste, they don't like wasting people's time. And then yesterday I joined some of the community for the Easter potluck. It was good. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot. I think that wraps. Look at that, my computer died just right then. Perfect. And that wraps up our regular council meeting. We will be closing the open meeting now and moving into closed, and I'll turn it over to CO Storoshenko. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Toss. I do need a motion to close the session. So
I need that.
So moved.
So moved from Councillor Lightfoot and seconded from Councillor McCann.
Wonderful, thank you. And just to let everyone know that it is being closed for the sections 91G and 92B3. And so that, thank you. That concludes the April 7th public portion of the regular council meeting. We ask that members of the public and staff exit the meeting as council proceeds to close. Thank you for joining us. And council, I now invite you to take a short recess while we prepare the meeting to close.
Thank you, CO Storoshenko. Thank you, everyone.